Jake, welcome to One Chimp and Friends.
How's it going?
I'm doing all right. How are you doing?
Yeah, not too bad, not too bad. I just saw a video. It's called Google Box, and it's about people's reacts to different TV shows and stuff. It's a weird concept, but anyway, there was this one show about these twins in Australia and Perth, and they share everything. They were like,
Oh,
they're
even
very
their
strange.
boyfriend.
Yeah, did you see that?
I read the article about it.
Yeah, that's weird. They
mad,
showered together, these twins. They when they were speaking, they were saying everything together. They were like
Yeah,
two voices, the same voice saying, "We showered together."
yeah,
They go to toilet together. And the
yes.
weird thing is as well, when one of them does the hoovering, she does it for 5 minutes, okay? And then
And then the other one
takes over.
5 minutes.
Yeah. But the weird thing is the other twin has to do the mimic. So she hasn't got a hoover in her hand, but she's next to her sister doing this,
Yeah.
like,
And the funny thing is they say they don't have
fast.
sex. They say they don't have sex at the same time, but
no, they do. That's what they said. I don't know. They said they never do anything together. They said, but their boyfriend, they showed the video of him in the park.
no, he's
two
the
twins
Mac.
in his hands.
He's
Yeah,
the Mac. Yeah,
he's showing off
yeah.
But they said, and the interview asked the twins. They said, so what happens in the bedroom, man? And they didn't. They were like, oh, how do we answer that? Well, if Ben's the name of the boyfriend, he said, whatever he does to one twin has to be done to the other twin.
That's right, but they don't do it at the same time. So in the article, they said that they're not having sex at the same time. But yes, whatever he does to the one, he's got to do to the other.
It's insane.
It is a lucky place to be until they decide, you know what? Until he does them wrong and they're like, we'll take turns killing him. First you stab him, then I stab him, then you stab him, then I stab him, then you stab him.
But think about a serious long-term relation. How hard would it be? This is a question about what's it called, polygamy in it, or what's the other one?
Yeah, that is right.
Yeah. How hard would it be to manage two spouses? You know what I mean? And a long-term, really, and the same house together.
And they would literally be sister wives. So in FLDS, in the Fundamental Latter-day Saints, the Fundamental Mormons, when they take multiple wives, they call each other sister wives. But in this case, they actually would be sister wives. Hey, Peter, welcome to the show.
Hey, guys. Are we talking about aliens?
No, we will, though. We can. No, we're talking about something which is an alien concept to 99% of all men in the world, and that is having the spectacular fortune of dating identical twin girls that are both fetching. They're both quite fetching. They look good. And imagine being the guy who's dating both girls at the same time.
You look happy.
Yeah.
I mean, that would be. I mean, are they sisters?
They're identical twins.
But it's not just that, though, Peter. They go to toilet together. They shower together. They share the same bed together. It's and they just follow each other around.
That sounds like incest, man.
No, they don't do. They
don't have sex at the same time.
They don't do it together.
Yeah.
Oh, they don't do it together.
No.
Well, then that's kind of like it's like the same girl, basically.
But it's double.
Unless you're doing it at the same time.
The truth is they probably do have sex at the same time. They just don't want to admit it. Because if they're using the toilet at the same time and they're taking showers together, wow, wow. Come on.
Yeah.
Think about it. Like you have sex with your girl. I'm just saying, each and every one of us, when we have sex with our girl, we've also taken a shower before, during, and after sex with our girl. This guy's dating two girls whom he has sex with, and they have showers at the same time. So if the guy has sex with the girl, that means he's having a shower with both girls. You see what I'm saying?
Fair point to say. If they do take showers together.
I have no idea what you're talking about. Whenever I'm with my girl, I'm not allowed to take off my clothes, and whenever she's in the shower, the door is locked.
Of course.
So,
and it's
yeah.
also not the same house when the shower happens. Yeah, but you know what I'm saying. Anyway.
No, I know exactly what you're saying.
Bill motherfucking Cosby released from prison on a technicality. There is no justice. Justice is a myth. Justice is a myth which is forged in the idea that justice should exist in a society. It's an ideal that we all aspire to, but justice is not a real thing. It's a myth. Just like Lady Justice being blindfolded is so that she cannot see the truth. The power elite will tell you, no, justice is blind so that she cannot see the wealth of the petitioner or the accused. But that's not true, because the scale that she holds in one hand is weighing the truth. It's not weighing the gold, right? So her being blindfolded means she cannot see the truth of the case. Ergo, justice is a myth that is created by the powerful to make the weak stay conformed. And you just have to look no further to a man who's worth about $400 million, right?
Well,
Money,
this is
money
a lawyer
his
sitting
freedom.
This is a fuck up. This was just a fuck up by one of the lawyers, wasn't it?
But it's not really a fuck up by one of the lawyers, right? They're spinning it that way, but that's not really the truth of it, because this was adjudicated before the trial really ever even began. And the question was, can the new prosecutors disregard the verbal agreement that the old prosecutor had with Bill Cosby not to pursue prosecution on the 2004 incident with Miss Constant, right? So they said yes, and they carried forth, right? They said yes, you can disregard that agreement because it's new prosecutors. These prosecutors haven't made that agreement with him. There isn't it's still within the statute of limitations to prosecute him. Bada bing, bada boom. And in the end, they didn't even need the testimony that he gave when he was deposed in a civil case. So originally, after 2004, the case was, the prosecutor was like, I don't think we have enough evidence that we would be able to prosecute him in criminal court. Ergo, Miss Constant can move forward with a civil case to try and sue him for damages. And what happened was, once the prosecutor assured Cosby that he wasn't going to prosecute him, then Cosby testified, was deposed, and admitted that he did secure drugs for the purpose of having sex with young women. And so he waived his Fifth Amendment right against self-incrimination. And it's on the, but they didn't really rely on that testimony in the conviction that they got against him in the criminal case back in, what was it, 2014 when it started? 2018 is when he was convicted, though. Yeah, it's a travesty,
It is. But I gotta be honest with you. You said something before the podcast about when will the left and right ever work together.
Yeah.
And this kind of a little bit for me kind of plays into it. Like the goalposts have been moved so much. We're like, obviously, I don't want this disgusting human being to be freed because he's raped women, right?
Yeah.
So, but at the same time,
50.
he's been freed, and it's so messed up. My head from this lockdown is so messed up. My media consumption has messed me up so much that, like, I'm always like, well, on the flip side, at least it's going to piss off a lot of people, And it's such a like horrible way to think about it. But like you said earlier, when will the left and right, we saw the thing with the transgender guy or Asian dude, which is basically a guy ruining his life. But at the same time, I'm kind of like, well, this is going to piss off a lot of people, like, and that's going to be really funny. I mean, it's like the your question was, when will we ever work together? The media has become so unprofessional now, where you say, if I'm pro gun, the left will say, oh, you must be pro killing children, which isn't true. And if the left say I'm pro choice, then the right will say, oh, well, that means that you're pro killing children. And of course, that's not the case. It's so much more nuanced than that. And so they just revert to name calling. So I think it's all coming from like the media and the Bill Cosby thing. You know, you'll have Ben Shapiro come on and say like, no, this is just a fuck up from a lawyer, and he'll have no heart about it whatsoever. And of course, someone will then grab onto that, and then there'll be a huge conversation about it. And then I guarantee you it will revert to name calling, and no one will talk about Cosby or the girls who've been raped. You know, it's just this one big circle jerk of bullshit. I think it's because of the media.
In the Bill Cosby situation, and I may be wrong, is like a non-political issue, as in I think both left and right want to see Bill Cosby in prison.
But that's the thing, you're dead right. But it's going to it's just going to take Ben Shapiro to say this was a fuck up by a lawyer, for some person on the left to kind of say, why are you being so heartless? For him to say, well, no, I'm just looking at the law. And then he will probably bring up something about something else, and they'll bring up something about something else, and then they'll start fighting, you know, and it won't be about Cosby.
You know, the way that this is very similar and at the same time very dissimilar is to the acquittal of O.J. Simpson for the double murder, right? So I left a couple snarky comments about this. You know, the juice is loose, or I mean, the Jello is loose. The thing is, you know, back when O.J. Simpson was acquitted, it was a very political thing, because if you were white, you believed he was guilty. And if you were black, you believed that he was being framed and that he was innocent. And what this ultimately, what the case proved to all of us, left and right, was that it doesn't matter the color of your skin. It matters how much money can you throw at purchasing your justice. Because O.J. Simpson, going back nearly 30 years ago, right? He, 1994? He spent $10 million on his legal defense in 1994, 1995. $10 million back then on his lawyers. You know, that's where Kardashian is originally, that's the original Kardashian, right? Is Robert Kardashian, the good friend of O.J. Simpson, his very first attorney, because he happened to be at the house when the police came the first time. And then, of course, Robert had to back away because he's like, holy shit, he did it. But anyway, so in some ways, this could have been very similar to the O.J. Simpson case, but for the fact that Bill Cosby, for the past 25 years or so, has caught himself lecturing Black people, sort of black-splaining or mansplaining, you know, to lecturing Black folks about how they're supposed to act. And as a result of that, he alienated himself from the Black community. So there are not a whole lot of Black folks that were standing up to defend Bill Cosby's innocence. You know what I'm saying? And so for that reason, like you said, Jake, this is something that both left and right can get behind, you know? And it's more,
and it's a different, I don't know. It was like, it's the whole O.J. Simpson thing. It seems quite obvious to most people, I'd say, but I don't know, with the Bill Cosby thing, maybe it was a bit different. so much
No,
more evidence, and it's
Bill
much more.
Cosby.
It's, I don't know. There was so many women involved, and you
Yes.
know, and
Bill Cosby is
yeah,
guilty, okay, and it's a travesty that he's out. But my whole point is just linking it to how the media is going to cover it, and I'm just predicting that there's going to be some, and it feeds into Martin's point about why no one can ever work together. There's just going to be some caveat where they're either going to make it all about, okay, they're going to turn it into a Britney Spears conversation all of a sudden, as if that has anything like, why is Britney, uh, you know, why does she still have this problem, and yet Cosby comes out when we're trying to free Britney?
Yeah,
Do you know what I
that's
mean?
something that bothers me too.
yeah, that's a
That
link in
bothers
there.
me
Yeah.
too about Britney Spears' conservatorship. You know, I think that it is completely fucked up that a woman who is in her 30s, right, is still unable to be in charge of her own life, her
Yeah.
money. That is really fucked up. And it
Well,
gets to the heart that there must be a lot more psychiatrically that occurred, that was recorded, that is well documented, that the press has never gotten wind of. Because I cannot believe that the couple meltdowns that she had going all the way back to 2008, which a couple of them were kind of public, you know, when she was going through her custody thing with Kevin Federline, I cannot believe, based on what we saw and what we have heard, that this is the reason that 13 years later, she's still, because the judge already said, no, I'm removing Jamie, her father, I'm not removing him from your conservatorship. And it's like, what the fuck, man? You know, he makes $16,000 a month, and she only has an allowance of $2,000 a week. And on top
I'm
of
sorry,
that,
but if she can
he
handle
lives
an
in her
allowance,
house, and
yeah,
she
if
lives in a
she can
rented
handle
house.
an allowance, she can handle all her money. Do you know what I mean? It's the same, like if you can trust her to
Right.
go out and spend an allowance, she can spend all her money. And also a statement in the court, which wasn't aired or anything as far as I know, sounded pretty sane and logical as well. It wasn't like, you know, like she was had mental issues. I mean, she may have mental issues, but still, it has to be to such a degree
The thing
that
that
kind of, you
bothered
know, but
me,
she's far from that degree by the sounds of it. And the idea of planting a you know, pregnancy blocker
IUD,
arm without her consent as
no,
well.
no,
That's like,
no, it's in her vagina.
yeah, well, sorry, still even worse. That is
Yeah.
fucked up. You know, it is
So
really sad.
the one thing that bothered me about the Britney Spears thing was when she said that she wanted to change the terms of the conservatorship or get rid of it, and she wanted to do it without examination. That bothered me because I can see the court automatically dismissing the request because the conservatorship was put into place after she was in on mental health hold in a psychiatric facility. And so I think it's untenable for any person to demand of the court to terminate the conservatorship agreement without a psychiatric evaluation, because that's how it happened that she got put into this conservatorship. And I can't see her getting out of it until she, and for her not to be willing to do that, right, is it sends a bad message to the court. It says that like you are either in denial about your mental health status, or you don't want your mental health status to be like the reason why the conservatorship is continued. And I think that if she was smart, well, I say smart, and that's really kind of a pat thing to say, but I think that she needed to be willing to do whatever it took, and come what may. If she really is healthy enough to be in charge of her own finances and her own everything, her own career, her own everything, then she should be like chomping at the bit to get
Shouldn't
into a psychiatric.
the standard should be though, I believe, is like, unless you like, if you commit a crime, you know, like, okay, you get put to prison, then your freedom is taken away from you. We all understand that. That's the social contract. However, if you can communicate to the court and even set up this whole procedure, saying I want my freedom back, then surely like there's no discussion, is there? Because I mean, if she doesn't want to be psychoanalyzed, and she can say that with her own voice and her own opinion, then to me, that's the end of the story. Unless someone was, brain damaged or had such severe disability that you could see they could not communicate what they wanted, then okay, that's when that conservatorship.
Listen, I agree that makes sense. Yeah, I agree.
And why should anyone be psychoanalyzed if they don't want it to be? Do you know what I mean? And so I think she has a right not to be. And if she can communicate what she wants, and hell, even if she got an allowance as well, that proves to me that she can handle her own affairs.
So the thing is,
to her own success, to her own detriment. But that's
she needs a different attorney. Getting back to what you were saying, Peter. When the news first became a for-profit business, objectivity disappeared, and now we've had a generation or so has passed, and what started out as a means of generating profit for a media enterprise has now become a tool of choice for corrupt politicians and power brokers. It turns out that misinforming the public has become more profitable than the ad revenue that is generated from customized, biased information and opinion broadcasting. We have entered a world where the real profit is coming from misinforming the public such that it affects a change in policy and legislation. Now, how else could a dingbat like Trump, for example, a failure in every sense of the word, resonate so deeply with a base of Americans with whom he shares no common values? Trump reviles and despises the character of his base. He is nothing like the people who support him. And yet, unfortunately, without legislating a change back to broadcasting model that requires media entities to feature unbiased, objective news as a requirement for the license to broadcast, we shall be in the dark. This will be another generation of broadcasting to get us back to the days of Walter Cronkite. But let me say that again. It will take us a generation. If we can change the law tomorrow back to the way it was in the early 90s and how it had been for decades, if we could get back to that time, it will take us another 30 years of this unbiased, objective journalism to finally, I think, lower the temperament of the people. You know what I'm saying? But it is vital to keep the country from ripping apart. And that transition period, there will be those folks who try to undermine the rule of objectivity. And there will also be others who decry that the broadcasters are still biased. More than likely, these people will all be from the right, because no one in the US is more easily triggered than the folks who brought you the term triggered in the first place, the masters of projection, right-wing conservatives. That was a comment that I wrote the other day, because this is a big problem, right? The media, Peter, is to blame for a lot of this divide, right? Because Rupert Murdoch is hell-bent on as many continents as possible to try and divide the left and the right, to try and characterize the left as commies who want to give away all the wealth of the people that have earned it. And he wants to he wants to stoke discontent on the right, even though he knows a vast majority of the right are more poor and lesser educated than the left, right? He knows that they aspire to be these wealthy pieces of shit that look down their nose on everyone and everything. He knows that most of these poor dumb fucks hope one day they could be a millionaire and not pay their taxes and not contribute to the public good and shit all over fucking nature and the environment and drive big fucking obscene sport utility vehicles over fucking nature and Bambi and over protesters, and have a white nation of mostly Christian, or at least people professing to be Christian. And, you know, once his family is eliminated from the equation and News Corporation, the company, the parent company to Fox, I think we could, you know, really see some progress. But with other companies like Newsmax and OANN, you know, it's
you won't see
and I think you were right. You're right about the last parts and stuff, like about the white nation and the running over protesters and stuff. But I think you'd find, like, I honestly believe, like, most Americans, when it comes to like healthcare, for example, and, you know, paying taxes on the rich and that, I think most Americans are in agreement. You know, I don't think there's any, like, there was a report the other day about universal healthcare, I believe, and they were saying there's
yes,
no
it's
point
very
trying
popular.
to, like, yeah, there's no point trying to
right,
like advertise
attack
against it, because
yeah, you
people were
can't
so
attack it,
for it
right.
on both right and left.
That's right.
So what they do is they just go into cultural issue wars. That's all they want to do. The corporate Democrats want to talk about cultural
that's
issues.
what I said.
That's it. The Republicans want to talk about culture war issues, you know, and that's what it's all about. So yeah, what makes the right-wing voters blood boil is, like, you know, racism, you know, immigration, you know, even more extreme things, which are like pronouns, you know, gender pronouns, and that type of conversation we're
I
having and
hate
stuff
that.
as well. But
That triggers me. I get
that's
triggered
it. But I
about that a
mean,
lot.
think about it. We've talked on this podcast about issues like this, but think about it a year ago when, you know, Jeremy Corbyn, Bernie Sanders were running and everything. We weren't talking about these issues. We're actually talking about real issues, about like wealth distribution, about
Well, you know,
economics.
that's the thing, right?
And now for Joe Biden's in, now for Keir Starmer's in the Labour Party, now for, you know, we have the end of the left wing is gone. Now we're having these shit conversations about stupid cultural issue wars. You know, not always stupid. Some of them are really important, but a lot of them are just like exacerbated, you know?
You know, the problem that we have is that the Democrats or the lefties that are in power, they don't want to dig too deeply in things that unify the right with the left, because like most of the things that unify the right with the left, Jake, you brought up healthcare. We know that in America, corporate Democrats want nothing to do with single payer healthcare, with universal Medicaid. They want no parts of that because they are more conservative than they would care to characterize themselves. Another great thing that you could totally get behind and unify both sides is just like pointing the finger at who do you think it is that's outsourced all your jobs to Mexico and Pan Asia? It certainly wasn't the fucking Democratic Party. Wasn't the Democratic Party that fucking shipped all your fucking automaking jobs overseas and all your fucking textile jobs overseas and all your manufacturing jobs overseas. That was 100% the right wing. The same fucking numbskulls that you vote for each election cycle. There's so many things that you could fucking unify the right and the left on. You know, a minimum wage that's actually more than $15, because if we're honest, it's been more than 20 years. And I say more than 20 years because this conversation was happening right about the time I moved to California. And it was that in order for an American to be above poverty level, he would have to be paid a minimum of $18 an hour. Now that was 20 fucking years ago, right? So this $15 minimum wage, this fight for 15, like that's another thing that corporate Democrats don't want any part of. You could definitely unite both sides of the fucking constituency, the people who actually vote, and you can get that shit passed. And, you know, Young Turks talk about all these things, you know, and they're right about all the things that we want, both right-wing and left-wing voters. The problem is that there's too many people that are in politics for their own purposes and not to represent people. They're there for the same reasons that you and I would probably, if we walked into a room full of money and it was an abandoned building, we would definitely take some of that money. And so the problem is the same with these politicians. The difference is it's not an abandoned building that they go to that's full of money. It's meetings with lobbyists and corporate interests. And the fact that they are able to somehow divert some of their campaign money into something which in some way comes back to them. And the fact that once you become a politician, there's so many golden tickets that are out there for you. And those people, the paymasters of those golden tickets, are the business interests that don't want any fundamental changes. Like, you know, what are you going to do to healthcare if all of a sudden you nationalize healthcare and make single payer coverage? You're going to make a whole industry go out of business. And you know, and you're the same people that are saying, look, they shipped your jobs overseas with the auto plants and the manufacturing. So it would be the same argument with healthcare, right? Well, you're going to put all those people out of work. And the same thing with raising the minimum wage to $15, $18, $20 an hour. There would be a lot of businesses who would bellyache and gripe to no end that it's unsustainable for them to be able to pay their workers that. And all the investors of all the shareholders of every major company that are looking for quarterly or at the very least annual dividends, which means they expect a cash payment on top of their investment for being part owner of a company. And they're not going to see any dividends if you're busy paying the fucking labor force more money than you ever paid them before, you know. And it's just so many fucking things that just comes down to money. We never got to talk about aliens. Son of a bitch.
Yeah, well, they're here. They're here.
Yeah, they're here.
And
are they transdimensional? Are they?
I'll tell you what they're not. They're not trans. Okay, they don't have. They don't. I guarantee you, aliens. Actually, no. Yeah, aliens probably don't have pronouns.
I was gonna.
Maybe that's.
You took it.
That's the next step.
Genderless.
Yeah, exactly. That's the next step. Maybe they are they.
It just came out on Amazon last night. It's called The Tomorrow War, and The Tomorrow War is it sounds like The Edge of Tomorrow, right? Sounds like the same storyline, but it's not. So The Tomorrow War is where people from the year 2051 come back 30 years to 2022, and they're recruiting people to go fight a war against an alien species, an alien invader 30 years in the future. And towards the end of the film, it's discovered that these aliens were here for thousands of years, living under a glacier in northern Russia. And that there was a volcanic eruption.
You should have said spoiler alert, mate.
Sorry, but it gets to the idea that we were talking about earlier.
Yeah,
maybe they're not extraterrestrials because they've been here longer than we have, right? So technically they're not extraterrestrial, they're terrestrial. They're just not human. But yeah, they could be transdimensional, right? They could.
How long have we got? How long is left in this?
We've got 8 minutes.
Okay, good. I think, okay. I'm going to go with the simple response. I think they are just little green men. That's it. I think they're aliens. That's it. I don't think it's a drone. I don't think anything like that. There's just too much out there, too many stories. And think about it. It's like the invention of God almost. It's kind of like, if it's not real, who the hell came up with this? You know?
Well,
Like,
a lot of religion. How will religious people react to, not moderately religious people, but like, serious religious people react to this? Yeah, may cause or it may even cause cults to worship the aliens. Think about
oh,
that.
there
They'd be
already
like,
are.
oh, it's
They already
God.
are.
It's, and there could be some weird alien cults. You know what I mean? At
Yeah, I
least
think
you know
that
it's real.
I
I'm
think that
joining that cult, man.
I think that actually a great number in the pantheon of religions, I think a lot of the ancient religions are actually a worship of extraterrestrial entities. Certainly, in the case of ancient Sumeria, their mythology is that beings from another planet came to Earth and made humans in their likeness, and so they actually do call them gods and worship them. And so, by the way, do the ancient Jews, because they have the same name for them, the Anunnaki.
Yeah.
And the Aztecs, the Mayans, and the Toltecs in their iconography and in their religion, they also have beings that came from the sky and touched the earth. And in fact, Teotihuacan, which is a popular tourist attraction in Mexico, means it directly translates to the place where the gods touch the earth. And Quetzalcoatl, who's the feathered serpent-like being in the ancient Mayan religion, he is actually also a person, right? Who is observed in equipment, gear, like a helmet that covers his head, an outfit that appears to have a breathing apparatus inside of his helmet, or perhaps it's a microphone. And this is real shit that's hundreds and hundreds of years old, carved into stone.
You
Um,
know,
Very
it's
interesting.
yeah, it is, but also it's scary because if I had a choice between meeting a ghost and meeting an alien, I would much rather meet a ghost
Oh,
because
really?
I'm just like, when we started talking about aliens, I like got a shiver because I looked at my balcony window. I'm like, oh, imagine if there was like a little green man just like this banging. I'm like, oh my god, he's gonna
Yeah, if
take
it
Yeah,
was
me.
real,
I'd
it would
much rather talk
probably.
to an alien because I understand that better than a
No,
ghost. I was,
I wouldn't know what to do with it. With a ghost, at least I have like, plan A, B, C, like pray, holy water, get the cross. But
well,
like
the
with
ghost has so many unanswered questions, though, doesn't it? Because you'd think, well, okay, if there's a ghost, what does that mean when I die? Do you know what I
Yeah.
mean? And it's like,
So that's where
whereas an
I'm at,
alien, you're
Jake.
like, oh,
That's where
okay,
I'm
it's
at.
out there,
But
it's on
here's
another
the
planet.
problem. That's where I'm at,
Yeah,
right? I'm
yeah.
like, there's so many unanswered questions. The problem is it's a goddamn ghost, so we're not going to get any answers. And this is
yeah, the
where I
ghost, like, I
default
don't know.
back to the alien, and I'm like, maybe the alien's aware of like what happens after we die, and that would probably be a more illuminating conversation, at least.
Would you trust them though? Because a lot of people, if the aliens come to Earth and we were like negotiating with them, and we said, what happens when you die, and they say, oh, you go to A10 or something, which is
Right.
their, like, all sentient beings.
Yeah, we could
I'd
ask
be
them.
cautious about that. I'd be like, what are they trying to pull here? Because there'd be
Well, sure.
loads of humans. Then it'd be like, oh, A10, A10. A10, by the way, is the name of an Egyptian sun god. But just
Yeah.
an example.
Yeah.
I
They
know.
would,
I'm
yeah.
not stupid.
Oh, sorry, I'm sorry. Yeah, A10, A10.
It is you're right, the duplicity, but a ghost could lie too. Couldn't a ghost lie also? If a
Well,
ghost
ghosts
could
are
Yeah.
just
talk,
people.
yeah,
Well,
ghost.
we could ask. We could just ask the aliens, like, here, look, what's the meaning of life? How many genders
Although,
are there?
But
when
would you
I
trust
lived
them
in
though?
when I lived in South Carolina, you said aliens or ghosts are people, but when I lived in South Carolina, we used to go to a place, we used to go to a beach called Hunting Island. And on the way to Hunting Island from where we lived on Paris Island, there was a place called Frogmore. And evidently, there's a legend there of a giant frog ghost or apparition, like a giant
Ribbit.
frog.
This is one of these Dan Booth legends and stuff.
I don't know, man.
Is that his name, the hunter? Is that Martin? Is that his name, Dan Booth, the famous
That's
you know,
a
guy who
great
founded Kentucky
idea
and all that?
for a scary movie.
That's a giant frog ghost.
Well, no, not about the giant frog ghost, but like, you know, someone's like, it could be a ghost story and they keep feeling stuff. And it's like, oh, well, like, that's like the ghost of like, you know, ants in your pants. Oh, shit.
All right, guys,
Like,
less than a minute. So what do? We talked a little bit about the twins that share everything. Boy, Bill Cosby would have loved them. And then we graduated
if
from
they were
Bill,
asleep.
We also talked about our boy who claims to be Korean now. And can I call him boy? I'm not even really sure. Or him, it's them, right? Something like that.
I say, you know what, everyone, just do whatever the fuck you want. Doesn't matter anymore. Just do it. You want to be, just fucking do it. I don't care. You want to be, I want to know, is he North Korean or South Korean? Because there's a big difference. All right.
I gotta go, guys. Love you, leave you. Bye-bye.
All right, Jake, thanks for joining us.
Jake's like, all right, I'm going.
Yeah, no, I think it's possible that nature called. But anyway, Peter, thanks for.
I gotta take it. Sorry, Martin. I gotta go. I gotta take a shit. Bye.
Yeah, exactly. Well, that's it. That's it.
This has been Two Chimps. I'm so tired.
Oh, I know. Me too, man. I swam for 2 hours today, and oh my God, wore me the fuck out.
Yeah. I think we're tired for different reasons.
Yeah. That's probably true.
We got to find a new bar. Sorry about that.
Yeah, I mean, that we didn't get to really dive into that one, but
no, we can't talk about that. Yeah, whoops is right. Whoops.
All right, cheers, everybody.
Goodbye, everybody. Stay safe out.